Hey everyone, today's species spotlight is a pretty obvious one. Now I've been holding off on doing these ones for a while because I was looking for somebody that had a large female that I could have on camera, but Sir Mix-a-Lot here, our male, has gotten pretty big in that time. And we'll see if he relaxes a little bit and he'll spread out and you can see all about 7.5, 8 feet of him. So let's get into the largest species of boa in the world and the heaviest snake, the heaviest living snake on the entire planet, the green anaconda. Now these guys come from parts of South America, mostly northern and central parts. Essentially they are east of the Andes Mountains and they mostly live in the Amazon basin along the Amazon and Orinoco River basins and up along some of their tributaries. Now, these guys are what a lot of people would consider a semi-aquatic species, and that's fairly accurate, considering that they spend a lot of their time in and under the water in marshes, swamps, in flooded plains, and in slow-moving rivers, again, along in those Orinocos, the Rio Negro, Amazon rivers. Now, these guys are called green because of their coloration. Most of their body is that olive, dark green color with those large black spots, but they also have kind of unique yellow coloration along their sides and on their bellies. And there's a very specific reason for that, and that has to do with camouflage. And there's another very famous, arguably more famous predator than the green anaconda that also uses this kind of coloration pattern, and that is the white shark or the great white. When you look at the white shark, you can see that its coloration is basically split between a dark gray and then a white. And that is because when you're in the ocean looking down at that pitch black bottom where you can't see the bottom, sometimes in the waters where those white sharks hunt, that dark gray blends in and you can't see them very well. And then when you're in water looking up, that white belly kind of hides their shape and their color that blends in with the color of their sun. The same principle applies for the green anaconda. That dark green coloration helps blend in with the dark bottom of the river. The black spots that they have across their entire body help break up the shape of the snake. So similar how to a lot of other snakes like the Dumeril's boa, boa constrictors, have those kind of odd but beautiful patterns that helps break up the basic snake shape of the animal. And then their yellow underbelly. When you think about the Amazon River, it's not crystal clear waters. They're very murky and dark and almost like a coppery yellow color, and that has to do a lot with the very iron-rich soil that is found throughout much of South America. And so that yellowish coloration will help blend that animal in if you're underwater. That aids in camouflage both from predator and prey of these guys. Adult anacondas are, to call them an apex predator would be a little disingenuous because, let's be honest, in the Amazon, everything eats everything else. But adult green anacondas eat everything. They will eat everything from large water birds to capybaras to caiman to jaguars to even tapirs, those large mammals, right? Now that is a lot, but again, it's the Amazon, so these guys are also preyed upon by botos or the freshwater river dolphins, large 6-foot-long otters, large adult black caiman, jaguars. They all eat everything down there. It's a crazy ecosystem. Now, despite the fact that these guys are semi-aquatic and do spend a lot of their time underwater, these guys do in fact also get out of there and spend time out of water. A lot of times you'll see them basking on the riverbanks in those very large, kind of overgrown tall grass, forming huge indentations in the grass. You'll see them basking up on riverbanks and along trees that are found in the trees, including fairly large animals, larger than this, have been found in the trees. And they're also found moving across from water source to water source, sometimes holding up and building up traffic jams throughout the Amazon, which is crazy to see a giant 13-foot snake just completely taking up every single lane of traffic. Now, these guys are incredibly sexually dimorphic, which means that there is a difference in appearance between males and females. This is Sir Mix-a-Lot. He is our boy. He would be what would be considered a sexually mature adult male. They are essentially between 7 to 10-ish, 11 feet, so averaging that 8 to 9. It's those big females that are the true monsters, with the largest of which can get over 20 feet long, but are pretty far and few in between. There's never been a recorded case of an actual human predation by a green anaconda. However, a lot of the different peoples that live in the area where these guys come from do tell stories about that. And it would be pretty rude to just ignore a lot of the actual remarks and tales, and accountings would be the more accurate term to use, of the people that actually live with these animals, because they a lot of the time know the difference between when someone is taken by piranha, by caiman, by jaguar, or maybe even by anaconda. Now, in captivity, these guys are monsters. They need huge enclosures. Even this guy, Sir Mix-a-Lot, who is a little bit special, and I'll get into that in a little bit, they need incredibly large vivariums or enclosures. To give them true, at least what we would like to do is to give them a good opportunity to recreate natural behaviors. You need to give them plenty of large expanses of dry land for them to spread out, to bask, to thermoregulate, as well as huge water sources where they will spend their time, sometimes curled up, sometimes not. And they also will, like every reptile on the planet, poop in their water, so that requires a lot of frequent water changes. These guys can be picky eaters. As babies, both in the wild and in captivity, a lot of the time they're eating birds, and that can be difficult for a lot of people to come across to have a nice steady supply of birds. Sir Mix-a-Lot here, in fact, wouldn't eat a mammal until basically the end of the year last year, and he's about 7.5 years old now. So that's a long time eating chicks, quail, and then eventually ducklings and larger pullet chickens. So all that has to be kept in mind for that. Obviously, with those females being over 9-10 feet long, being probably more realistic as far as actual size in captivity goes, and the general population, that's still huge enclosures. And these guys also need huge long enclosures. Like I said at the beginning of this video, Sir Mix-a-Lot, who is locked onto my hand entirely, who does not want to let go, is about 7-ish, maybe a little bit longer feet long. Or you could do the kind of, it's not patented, but the Brian Barczyk method of using a piece of string from its nose to his tail and then measuring that string to get a little bit more of an accurate telling, but he's very difficult to actually get to hold still and entirely stretch out. So that's where I'm kind of guessing about that range, because he's definitely taller than I am. And I'm between 5'9" and 6'2", depending on what 7-Eleven I happen to be running out of. Now, I did mention that Sir Mix-a-Lot was a little bit special. When we got him, he only wanted to eat birds, but he would freak out in large enclosures, regardless of how we laid it out inside. We immediately tried to put him into an actual regular enclosure. He freaked out, refused to stop eating, actually lost weight, put him back in a small, basically 50-quart tub, and then slowly moved him up now. And he's now at the point where he will be going into an actual enclosure like the ones behind me. Not a 6-foot one, but he'll go into a 5-foot one, and we'll see how he's doing with that. But again, this guy is a little bit special, and every single animal is, in fact, for sure an individual. They all have a bit of nuance to them, but they do require very large enclosures, like I said. But these guys are absolutely amazing. However, they are not for what I would say almost every single reptile keeper. They do have a reputation for being incredibly reactive, biting with their face, not asking questions, doing that later. So biting first, asking questions later. I got there eventually. And being incredibly powerful. I have boa imperators and constrictors that are about as long as Sir Mix-a-Lot here, and they are not as strong as he is. He is really holding tight onto my hand. He's not trying to constrict me. He's just that strong. He is incredibly powerful. A lot of that has to do with them having to overpower animals in the water that are also equally adept in the water. Capybaras are amazing swimmers, and so to be able to grab a huge, powerful, over 70-pound rodent and hold them underwater without them doing undue damage to them, that requires a whole lot of strength. And in addition to that, anacondas happen to have a very unique adaptation or habit that these guys happen to have that is very unheard of throughout most of the rest of snakes that we know about, and that is how they strike. Most snakes that you know about strike outwardly. They can strike up, they can strike down, but they strike outwards. And in the case of, like, say, a cobra that's hooded up, they will strike downwards. These guys can strike from basically any position. They can just go straight backwards on me like that, and with almost no warning. Supposedly, you can eventually tell what they're going to do by watching the muscles in their neck. They'll sometimes tense up, but not a whole lot of people are actually faster than a snake. Now, like all animals, eventually you learn to build a relationship with individuals. You can learn their tells, you can learn their habits, you can learn to read their body language. And so because of that, I've never had an issue where Sir Mix-a-Lot has really actively tried to bite me. There have been a few pretty close calls out there. My partner did once have to take a bite because he was getting into he was getting tangled up in things as he was running to try to get away as he was done. That's generally his sign. When Sir Mix-a-Lot is done, he'll start to run on me, where he'll loosen up and he'll start to try to get away. And that's usually the sign that says, I'm done, let go, or else. And because of that, I've never really had any real issues with Sir Mix-a-Lot. But because of those habits and that close to what would be not far off to indeed call unpredictability, that does lead to an incredibly large animal with incredibly powerful bite force and strength behind it that could lead to unfortunate accidents. So they are not for most keepers. And so this is a species of snake that I would definitely have zero qualms with saying that 99.9% of snake and reptile keepers should not be keeping, because like I said, they can be a huge handful for even experienced keepers and even keepers with anaconda experience. A lot of people do tend to go for the yellow anaconda, the smaller cousin. He's getting really heavy. Sorry, I'm drooping him down. He's getting really heavy because of their more availability. These guys were once put on the U.S. ARC list. They are one of the big five, and so because of that, importation of these guys is basically done, as well as the transportation between states was also down for a little while too. These guys are amazing species of animals, but again, not for the faint of heart, definitely not for everybody. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. I have a whole other playlist of Species Spotlight if you want to go check that out. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell notification. I'm trying to do a whole lot more updates. If you all want to try to support me a little bit more than just watching these views, which is amazing. I greatly support that, but I do have a Patreon that varies in level of patronage and plenty of different rewards that includes t-shirts, tours, private interviews, as well as behind the scenes updates, first choice of availability lists, and different things like that. So if you want to check that out, that'd be great. Please like and subscribe, as I said before. Any questions, comments, concerns, let me down below in the comment section. Just be nice about it. Hope you're having a great day, and we will check you next time.